Hey guys, this is FazRadio episode 4. We're going to focus on hodling today. So let's get into it. So hodling basically is holding. It's holding crypto. I believe somebody misspelled the word holding at some point in the internet past and thought that it was really cool. So it's now hodling and everybody calls it hodling. Oh, you know what? I should introduce Praetorian Titan. Why is it so hard to hodl, Praetorian Titan? What do you think?
Well, it it doesn't give instant gratification. So you have a group of people who enjoy making money, and to them it's maybe not real money if they don't sell what they have or trade what they have and get the satisfaction of seeing a larger balance immediately. Also, with volatility, I mean, we've seen prices of tokens jump 30, 40, 50% in a day. It fuels the greed. And in this space, a lot of the media will talk about how people can, make hundreds of thousands of dollars from just a small investment. And your Bitcoin billionaires, and it feeds the greed. People who do that are generally people who are starting out with the greed in mind instead of what the end result really is or what they really want ultimately. I saw a tweet and I can't credit it because I don't remember who it was. And what they were saying is that they're looking at what they want today versus what their ultimate goal is. So if your ultimate goal is wealth, it doesn't have to be today. It doesn't have to be next week. It doesn't have to be next month. And everybody that we talk to talks about hodling and keeping those assets for the long term, but it's really a matter of perspective on that. Long term to me and long term to you could be completely different things.
Well, isn't isn't hodling what you do with your 401k?
It is. And there's penalties associated with taking it out early, which help to dissuade people from doing that. I suppose you could look at trading fees or other fees, maybe transfer fees and all that, as a form of penalty. But the 401k is generally traditional securities, which don't move as much as crypto assets have in the past 2 years on a daily basis. So it's more difficult to absorb those fees when you're only averaging 3 to 5% a year versus a trade on the crypto side where there's a 30% swing.
Okay, good point. That though says to me that the stock market or the investment market really strongly incentivizes hodling, and the crypto market maybe has a different take on that. I know the crypto market does have some DeFi stuff coming up, or some DeFi things going on right now that kind of incentivize hodling a little bit.
So incentivizing hodling has two sides to it. There's things on the staking side, which there's ridiculous rates that can be earned in staking right now. For instance, I have Polkadot being staked, and it's a 12% return, and it's instant. It's not like traditional savings accounts where every month you get a statement that shows your 0.03%, and you see that pop up once a month and go, oh wow, look, I made some interest. With staking, a lot of times it's much quicker. So the one that I'm involved with now, every 3 to 4 days I will see that return hit the account, and then that's compounded. So it gives you more of an instant gratification feeling. And what I've found is that you have to watch the greed side of it more. I got a little bit wrecked back when Bitcoin was anywhere between $10,000 and $16,000, and there was like wild swings. And I thought, okay, well, I don't have a ton of Bitcoin in here, so what I'm going to try and do, I think I'm smarter than the market, of course. Everybody does. And they say, oh, well, we can just accumulate this way and get a lot more Bitcoin if we just catch these swings and buy and sell and do a lot of this trading. And so I went in and I tried to do that, and I ended up, even though the Bitcoin price was jumping between 10 and 16, I used limit orders. At the end of that, when I finally stopped myself after a week or 10 days or whatever it was and looked at it, I had less Bitcoin than I started with. And at the same time, now I had 6, 7, 8 trades that are taxable. So I kind of shot myself twice with that. And I learned my lesson pretty quickly to ignore the greed. And if you're really interested in a coin, grab it, put it away, leave it be. If there comes a point in time down the road where there's a very big gain on that and you want to take some profit, do so. But the trading game, at least for me, didn't work out. There's people out there, I'm sure, that spend 8, 10, 12 hours a day doing these trades and they probably make a lot of money. I mean, I don't doubt that. For me, for the regular person who just wants to obtain wealth at some point, I'm not sure that doing anything but hodling is the right thing to do.
I've read a number of articles explaining, kind of detailing that hodling is more efficient than getting in and out of the market. And, I have a testimonial to that because I know a few different day traders and they're going back and forth between coins all the time. And I'm just sitting on perhaps one of the coins that they're going back and forth between, and they're making $100 here, $100 there. And then, a month later for me, the coin will pop really big. And of course, I'll get a much bigger, I'll say, unrealized return than them. So it's technically, if I were to then pull out, I'd probably wind up having more money than them. However, hodling is a bit of a skill. You need to decide which coins you want, do some research on it, and then put it away, and then not worry about it. But day trading is a skill too, and there's different goals that you want. One day trader I've worked with is like, I just need to get $300 today, and then I'll feel good about myself. He probably has a certain amount of money that he wants to live on per month, and $300 a day is a good way to assure that. Me, I have a day job, and I can't afford. I don't have the time to do all that kind of stuff. And it turns out that just holding the money in an account or on your Ledger Nano, your hardware wallet, which is something I recommend, holding crypto in your hardware wallet and not touching it for a long time does pretty darn good as well.
It does. And there's been instances where I've made quite a bit of money on trading. There was a period, I want to say like February of this year, when the tokens, some of the new tokens on one of the exchanges were running all over the place. And I was lucky enough. I used some limit orders with automatic preset buys and sells, and I ended up making, I think it was close to $3,000 off of like $400. But I was smart enough to stop. And I said, okay, well, I like these tokens. I wanna keep them around for the long term. I made some short term profits, and I just tucked them away and let them be. So I don't think it's all or none on either hodling or trading. You can do both and do very well with both. I think though that if you're looking for wealth down the road, if you say to yourself 5 years down the road, I'm looking to be at X amount of dollars, I do think that you need to be more geared towards that hodling side and give these projects time to develop, time to put out their D apps, and make something happen on their network. Because sometimes a small tweet will go out about, hey, look what we've done with our project. We finally overcame the bug that we've been fighting for the past 6 months. And that'll lead to a spike, of course, because people think it's great news. And then 3 days later, when they kind of the reality sets in and they go, oh, well, this wasn't as big of a deal as we thought it was, the token drops back to where it was. So traders could take advantage of those spikes, but long term, a year or two down the road, when the first of 9 bugs gets worked out and the token starts to ramp up slowly to a higher value, let's hope, at that point, you're no better off or no worse off than the people who have been clicking trades on and off all the way through that cycle. It also has a lot less stress involved with it because you're not constantly worried about catching the peaks and the valleys.
Well, I'm hearing you actually saying that you're doing some research there, and that's a good point. Do you think it's wise to hodl without research at all? Do you always need a reason?
You know, that is a personal choice, and a lot of that has to do with your financial situation. If you're sitting on a pile of cash, let's say $50,000 that you don't need, and nothing will happen to you if all 50,000 goes away, buying into a token and researching after might not be a big deal for you. Whereas there's other people that have to scrape together and make sure that they can still buy groceries if they still spend that $50. I'm not sure it's a wise idea to start buying things without doing a ton of research first.
It sounds like you're also saying it's not very wise to go into debt when you have crypto. It's not wise to go into debt to buy crypto.
I don't think it's wise to go into debt for any reason whatsoever, but reality and living on this planet and living in this country, we do have to go into debt for certain things. There's not a lot of people that have the money laying around to just pay cash for a house and a couple of cars and live that way. So I don't think we should be looking at it as something that is bad or good. I would think everybody who does go into debt or uses a credit card to buy crypto, you need to have those assets. In my opinion, you need to have those assets to back up what you're spending. There's people who want to take advantage of opportunities, right? So you might have a credit card with a $10,000 limit and you love Bitcoin and you see Bitcoin drop down to $4,000. You might want to go ahead and use that credit card to pick up, 3 Bitcoin. But are you going to pay for that Bitcoin purchase spending $100 a month paying off the credit card? I would hope you don't put yourself in that position because you don't know if it's going to go back up. But someone who might have that $12,000 that's maybe just not so liquid sitting in their savings account who can immediately pay off that $12,000, it's a lot different. The debt is temporary or long term. So there's so many situations out there and nothing applies to everybody as a group. You got to look at your own situation. I would hate to hear any kind of story of someone losing their house or taking a mortgage out on their house to buy something and it doesn't work out the way that they do and they end up losing their house. That's awful.
There's something else that's been going on regarding hodling crypto that's important to mention is there's a lot of millennials and young people that are using crypto, holding crypto to save up for college or to save up for some sort of life event and stuff like that. In one sense, that seems really, really irresponsible. I mean, especially if you're going to use it to save up for college. How do you know you're even going to go to college? In another sense, it seems like a really smart idea. Probably, it's a smart idea if you know or if you think that crypto is going to continue increasing and, that we're going to have more crypto in our lives going forward. What do you think? Is it a good idea to hold a lot of crypto for years for college? I mean, do I want to use it to save up for my kids' college?
Maybe, maybe not. It would depend on what crypto you're using to do that. And you have to do your research if you're going to hodl for that long. I mean, there's 12,000 different DeFi tokens. And there's a infograph I think I put up on Twitter at one point that talked about the number of failed coins. And if memory serves, it's right around 25%. In other words, 25% of the tokens that are brought out today probably aren't going to make it 10 years. So you have to, if you're going to do something like that, do your research and look at projects that you believe from your research are going to be around 10, 12, 14 years down the road. And not all of them will be. And just because you see a lot of exciting news about that token on Twitter or from anywhere, even here at CFA, that doesn't mean it's going to be there. Everybody has a different perception of what research is good for them. How deep you dig, you can be like your own research facility, and you can go into researching the backgrounds of every company executive, where they came from, what their experience is. You can take it as deeply as you want to take it. Or what a lot of people do, unfortunately, is they will look at a Twitter feed and say, oh, I really respect Mr. So and so here. And they're saying that this is the greatest crypto that has ever lived. And that's the extent of their research. Well, just like anything else in life, it's caveat emptor. I mean, you have to look at it and make a determination for yourself. You have to monitor it over time because things change. Just because a token has a white paper out that says, this is the goal, this is what we're going to do, and this is how we're going to get there, it doesn't mean that that's going to happen. That's not a guarantee. You have teams that will have people leave. The lead developer for a project that walks out 3 years into the project, what's going to happen to that token? And if you're not following that and you're not keeping up on it's going to wreck you.
I have something to say about that. I mean, so let's look at Dogecoin. You're talking about failed coins, so I'd like to challenge that a little bit. That even that description, what is a failed coin? Doesn't the community make a coin? Dogecoin was invented as a joke, and people started buying a lot of it, and eventually the community kind of made it into a real kind of meme coin. For all intents and purposes, Dogecoin is it's a real, effective, and fairly secure coin. It's a copy of Bitcoin. They could just mint a whole lot more. I think they can just keep minting forever. But the community is really dialed into it, and they really like it. But at one time, it was a failed coin. It would start out as a failed coin, but people made it better. So any coin. So that's why I'm challenging the definition of what's a failed coin. If I made a coin today, put it out there, and I failed to reach my goals with it, it's still out there. It hasn't gone anywhere. People holding that coin, they still have some sort of value, but they can't get the value out of it until someone else comes along and makes it into something. And yes, I'm going to totally blame Elon Musk for making Doge a much better coin than it is right now. Even if he didn't do anything to it, he's marketing it in a way by tweeting about it.
If you look at how Doge has come to be so famous, are the people hodling it or are the people trading it? And how does that affect the price? How long are people going to wait? There's the instant gratification we talked about earlier. You saw nothing but wonderful tweets and all kinds of hype on when it hit, I think it was 65 cents or something like that. And then you hear crickets today when it's 40 cents, 35 cents. People aren't excited about it anymore because unfortunately, with this being such a new industry, you're going to have these wild swings, and people are being programmed, especially first timers or new people to this space, that it's instant gratification. You're going to be a millionaire if you just put $50 into this and wait a month. And that's not reality. There's a lot of people that really are long-termers in here and they understand the long-term benefits. Sometimes they get caught up and wrapped up in one token. They call them maxis, and you have your lines drawn in the sand. You have this group that's Bitcoin or nothing, and then you have the other group, it's Ethereum or nothing, and they're going to hold on to everything they have, and that's the only token they're going to buy. Everybody has their preference. We do want to look at the long-term history of these coins, though, because it does tell you a lot about the at least the projection that they're going to be here 10 years from now. And you have to look at what they do and how they're used and what the potential use is. I know I'd love to have you share some of the things that you're really good on with this. I love hearing when you talk about the ability. And when I first heard it from you, I was laughing. I said, no, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And then the more that I saw it happen, I looked at some of these projects a little bit more in depth and I realized it was true. One of my favorite quotes from you is, if people don't have a use for it today, someone smarter is going to come along and find a way to make it useful. Tell us a little bit about maybe some examples on that.
All right. So the way that I invest in coins, frankly, is I do my own research. I look and see what the coin can do, and the individual features that I like about them, I start kind of extrapolating, projecting, like how useful could this be if somebody really got into it. Inevitably, there's a team working with some coin or another. Usually, the teams try to have some sort of foundation or be separated from the coin so that it's not some sort of security. But if it becomes obvious that there is a team or teams working with the coin and working with these features that I think will really get somewhere, then yeah, it's a good one to buy. I mean, it's still a risk. The team could flop. The concept could not take off, but it's if there's some good teams using a particular coin that you like, go for it. However, if there are no teams going for this coin, another coin is going to come along and probably absorb that functionality into their coin. They're like, you know what, this X coin, which isn't being used, actually has a really good feature that we want, and they're usually not ashamed to admit it. We should also be aware that all coins are going to try to absorb others. It's kind of expected actually that Bitcoin is going to get more security features. It's going to become more like Monero. Monero has obfuscated addresses on the blockchain, and it's harder to trace transactions. Certainly, Bitcoin is going to get these features because right now Monero is getting all the people getting that coin. It's going to be more useful for the people who use Bitcoin to have privacy features like that. Some people like to say that the altcoins are really just test beds for features that will eventually go into Bitcoin. I'm not too sure about that because it really depends upon the team or teams that develop Bitcoin. I believe right now there's a Bitcoin core team, and then there's other teams that work with it as well. I think the Bitcoin core team is what manages the actual Bitcoin. Bitcoin going to move away from proof of work, for example? Is it going to move to proof of stake? It could if the Bitcoin core team decided that it would. If someone came up with a really good concept or a good feature that could go with Bitcoin and the Bitcoin core group doesn't like it, they can fork Bitcoin and then apply that feature to it. If their new feature is better and people like it more, then that coin's going to eventually be worth more than Bitcoin because it's Bitcoin but with a better feature. So, I mean, there's still a lot of it depends in there. So it just so happens that I picked a few good coins that have done really well, but I just sit with them and I'm just holding. I currently have a job, and I want to see them get bigger and bigger. I don't want to. I don't have the time to spend all day trading, and I don't think I'm very good at it. So I see something nice, I hold on to it.
I think a good example of where we can point directly to hodling being something that long term pays off is VeChain. So with VET, when you buy VET, you hold it in your wallet, and just for having it, you were issued and still are, as far as I know, VTHO tokens to go along with it, and it just automatically shows up. And back when VET was trading at a penny or less, you were collecting just ridiculous amounts of this VTHO. And it was like 4 or 5 zeros and one. So it's like 1/10,000th of a penny is the value of this. And that was what was used as the gas. And if you wanted to move your VET tokens, you paid for the movement, the transaction fees using VTHO. And they had it listed on a few of the exchanges. You couldn't even get it at all the exchanges that you had the ability to buy VET on. And I thought about it when I saw it on Binance. I said, oh, maybe I should collect a few of these in case I want to move this around or whatever. I said, no, that's kind of stupid to spend money on that. Well, lately, VET has jumped quite a bit. And during the last little run that we had, I think it got up to darn near 8 cents for the VET. And what a surprise it was to look into the wallet and see that the VTHO token was now at a penny. And I thought about it and I laughed and I said, boy, if I would have just grabbed some of that and stuffed it away like I had thought about doing, there'd be a nice little chunk of change in there right now. So there are surprises that come along too. You'll buy tokens that you think are good. You do your research. You say, boy, this is really going to have a good use. And you buy them and you throw them on your ledger. And later on, you never know where that token's going to go. And it could be a nice little surprise a little bit later instead of just trading it all day long, for a 3 cent increase, and you've gone from a $200 balance. You pat yourself on the back because now it's $225. You say, boy, I made $25. How easy was that? Instead of just leaving it sit, and you come back to it 2 years later, and maybe it's done well, and you've got a nice big surprise in your wallet. Now it's worth $3,000. I think you have to look at it as a strategy that you can use. There's different strategies. There's trading, and then there's 5 subcategories of trading. There's day trading. There's swing trading. You could go on and on. And hodling, there's different subcategories. There's short-term hodling, long-term hodling. There's hodling with staking. There's all kinds. It's a tool. And how you deploy that tool for hodl, how you do it, it can have great results. It can have terrible results. Use it as what it is, as a tool. Don't, in my opinion, don't just jump in and say, well, I'm all in on this strategy and that's the only way that I'm going to do it. That limits the potential for up and down movement and what it'll have on your portfolio. Use it as a tool, explore it, research it, put it to its use, and use it for how it works for you with your portfolio.
Anyway, wrapping this up, any last words, Mr. Titan?
Enjoy, hodl on, and we look forward to the next series that we come up with.
Hodl on, dude.